I did hear that she was with someone and nobody knows who it was.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that this girl was taken. There's no doubt in my mind.
This sounds like Natalee Holloway.
No shirt, no shoes, coming back again almost 9 in the morning, hours after Konanki was, or when they were on the beach at around 5 a.m.
The search for Sudiksha continues this morning. What we're learning about the person of interest in her case. Will he become a suspect, or will he help find the missing student? And the similarities to the case of Natalee Holloway are too many to ignore. We've got the private investigator for Natalee Holloway's family joining us here in the studio live. Plus, also this hour, we're learning Bryan Kohberger's defense team might be arguing that evidence was planted at that King Road home where those 4 beautiful students were slaughtered. We're breaking down how that theory will play out in the courtroom. Plus, the wife of a Ghost Adventure star allegedly tries to have him murdered and then allegedly tried to get one of Court TV's most infamous defendants to help make it happen. It's all next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? We have a tremendous show planned for you with a stellar lineup of guests. So let's get it going. Grab that coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. Worlds collide. True crime worlds, that is. Get this. Police say the wife of the Ghost Adventure star Aaron Goodwin was conspiring with convicted killer Grant Amato to hire a hitman on the outside to murder her husband. Grant Amato. Well, there's a blast from the Court TV past, huh? That scumbag murdered his parents and his brother all over money and his sick addiction to his webcam girlfriend, Sylvie. That guy's doing life in Florida, and Victoria Goodwin became his pen pal. That's right, she says she saw a documentary about him and became fascinated about him and reached out. Really? Fascinated by that lowlife? I suppose for every pot, there's a lid. Police say that Victoria was offering to pay Amato to hire a hitman on the outside to have Aaron murdered while he was in California. The killing was supposed to be carried out in October, according to police. Thankfully, though, it wasn't. And Aaron is alive and well, and Victoria is behind bars. So now, I really hope that Aaron mails her some paperwork in the jail for a divorce. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Easy. I gotta be with you this too.
I want to get this to you too.
I dream about you. I can't stop thinking about you. I want us to get married. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we need to get married.
The defense case continues today in the celebrity hairstylist murder trial. So will the defendant's lover, Robert Baker, take the stand today? That's the burning question. We'll find out at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. In New Hampshire, we've got testimony rolling on in the bad blood shooting case for Jason Levesque. That starts up at 10 a.m. Eastern. And in Kentucky, we've got the military wife murder trial for Jordan Henning getting underway. That starts up at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and we'll go in there together when it begins. Now to our top story, new developments in the search for missing University of Pittsburgh student Sudiksha Konanki. It's been 1 week now since she vanished while on spring break in Punta Cana with friends. The hometown sheriff of the missing University of Pittsburgh student named a person of interest in her case, reportedly 22-year-old Joshua Ribe from Iowa. The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office says, quote, this is not at this time a criminal investigation, so to be clear, he is not a suspect. It's our understanding that he is a U.S. citizen who was vacationing in Punta Cana, not part of the group traveling with the missing person. According to the Sheriff's Office, Ribe gave conflicting statements following Konanki's disappearance, first saying that the two were alone on the beach. threw up from the rough surf, asked if Konanki was okay, then went back to shore. In another version, he allegedly said that he felt sick and left the water, but saw Konanki in the water before he passed out. He then allegedly told authorities that he saw the missing Pitt student walking along the shore before he passed out on the sand. Bottom line is, this guy might have been the last person to see her alive. So what really happened to Sudiksha Konanki? Let's bring back in private investigator Manuel Gomez, who's been following the case from its start. And I want to welcome in celebrity attorney John Phillips. Manuel, let me begin with you, please. Multiple days you're looking at this, learning more information incrementally. Where are your thoughts today about her?
Well, my thoughts are, unfortunately, Julie, is that this case is going to now, in the next about 5 or 6 days, going to stop. They're going to stop searching the waters because they got to the point where they realize they're not going to find her. And it's going to become a cold case file. And it's going to become a cold case file deliberately because the country does not want it to be labeled as a murder or a kidnapping or sex trafficking because that affects their tourism. And this is why when you go to the U.S. Department of State website, there's a 2024 trafficking in person in Dominican Republic document, which shows from 2022 to 2024, they've had 1,500 people be kidnapped in this country, and that their police are poorly trained and don't have the skills to do this type of investigation. This is in the United States Department of State report for all Americans to see on every country, and we don't utilize it. Unfortunately, this family needs to do a GoFundMe and get ready to take this to the next level where private investigators will conduct this investigation for them, because the country eventually is going to stop within a week or so, and that's my prediction.
Great points, Manuel. I'm surprised you haven't gotten a call yet. I bet you will. And that's where things need to go with people who are going to take this seriously. I have to wonder if it was taken seriously and if too much time went by. I mean, Manuel, at first they said, oh, drowning, and it seemed kind of dismissive. You know, are they now at a disadvantage because of how they viewed the case from the outset, not thinking this could be a homicide?
Absolutely. They wasted time, and this is precious time. When you got a case like this, it's like milk. The longer you wait, it goes bad. You have to be on it from the point, and it should have been labeled either a possible murder, so they could have conducted the investigation on the sea and on the land. Instead, we focused all this time on the land, and now, on the sea. And if she is on the land, kidnapped, the kidnappers had well enough time to make sure that we don't find her at all. Again, this is going to be like another Natalee Holloway case where the person is not found, and eventually down the road, you might have somebody get arrested. But in this case, I don't see that because they're not putting the energy to that.
Excellent points, Manuel. We'll get back to the investigation in a moment. John Phillips, you're another one who I haven't, I'm surprised hasn't gotten a call yet from someone here, either the Konanki family or the Ribe family. So let's take these in turn. So in terms of Sudiksha Konanki's family, they're putting out a plea publicly, legally. What, if anything else, can they do right now?
It's very difficult because the family's in Virginia. She went to Pitt, and all of this happened in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. And so you've got multiple jurisdictions. You've got, international searches that you can't control. The reason the show is called 48 Hours, to his great point, is the evidence, it disappears within 48 hours. And so, they seem to be linear focused on this being some spring break thing gone wrong. And, that's what happens when you mix alcohol and hooking up. And that's not really where the evidence is pointing. That's the convenient blame to avoid an international incident.
Yes, well said, John. And then, so follow-up for you. So Joshua Ribe, I want to be very clear, not considered a suspect, considered a person of interest right now. He's got concerns too, because, and I want to be very clear, this guy, he may have nothing to do with her disappearance. She very well may have drowned, may have been taken by someone, harmed by someone, we don't know. John, his concerns legally, what should he and his family be doing this morning?
he's a resident of the United States, and the Fifth Amendment applies to him no matter where he goes for purposes of this investigation. And they're not going to, bring him back down, I assume, to the Dominican Republic for questioning. And even if he does, he still has the right to speak to a lawyer and to, make sure that the information he's putting out there, one, keeps him with a shroud of innocence, two, doesn't get him caught up in some sort of public media, court of public opinion witch hunt. Because at the end of the day, the evidence seems to be that he was just, kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time with a pretty girl. And now he's kind of caught up into the disappearance of that girl. And that's awful.
It really is, John. You're so right. And he's got rights, and cloaked in the presumption of innocence, not charged even, so I want to be super clear with Joshua Rye. He's a college student as well. He's a senior at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota. And a little bit that we know about him, he was a wrestler in high school. So high school athlete and a senior college student there on spring break with his friends as well. Manuel Gomez, talk to me about this person of interest. Is there anything that you've read or seen about him that stands out to you and gives you any more questions that should be asked of him at this time?
Yes, and I do believe that, since he's changed his story 4 times and he knew that she was there, he did not, and nobody's focusing on this point, he did not go to the front desk and say, hey, she went missing. Hey, she was drowning. He said he was hit by a wave and then she was taken by the wave. If that was true, then why didn't he report her missing? He didn't do anything, okay? So this guy, I think, should be really taken in and questioned thoroughly in the U.S., and I think that'll scare him possibly to maybe tell the truth. But on the flip side of that, I pray and I hope the family's listening. Please go set up a GoFundMe. Please put a reward for any information to her possible abduction. Please generate that money, because you are going to need private investigators to go out there and do this case, because this is going to come to a halt within the next 5 to 6 days. They're not going to keep looking in the water.
Yeah, great point, Manuel. Money talks. Bottom line, money talks, and it can be so valuable in getting information for cases. I'm so glad you said that, Manuel. Yes, Crime Stoppers organizations around the country get tips all the time because of those rewards. I used to volunteer with one in North Carolina. It's amazing what they can find out, and anonymous is okay if it leads us in the right direction. John Phillips, talk to me, please, if you would, about any concerns with, agencies, flexing? We got a lot of, hands now cooking in the kitchen. Who do you think is best equipped to be handling this? Is it the FBI, John?
It pretty much has to be at this point, because, look, I've been to the Dominican Republic, and I'll probably go back, so I don't want to insult them too much. But Manuel made a great point about the conflict of interest here. They get millions, if not more, in tourist dollars, and they want it to continue to be safe. Meanwhile, an American tourist has gone missing, and nobody is going to really represent her interests with the state of Virginia. I know they're interested, but they don't have any jurisdiction. The FBI can at least flex its muscle to try to find this out, because we do have a massive interest in protecting our tourists that travel abroad.
We sure do. Well said. Such great insight from you both. John Phillips, you're coming with us. Manuel Gomez, you've got your own cases you're working. A military veteran you are, retired NYPD, and Black Ops Private Investigators is your company now. I'm looking forward to more analysis from you in the days and weeks to come. Thank you kindly, Manuel. And coming up next here on Opening Statements, we're not stopping our coverage of this case. We're continuing talking about the missing University of Pittsburgh student, and we're comparing her case to another similar case, Natalee Holloway's case. We all know it well. And we have a special guest joining us live in the studio next, the private investigator who worked for Natalee Holloway's father while she went missing. We'll be right back. Plus, later in the show, Brian Kohberger has a brand new defense theory that the knife sheath was planted by the real killer.
You're coming from Washington State University? Yeah. And you're going where? Oh. You're going to be going to Pennsylvania. Oh, okay.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Cimentelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cimentelli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The Celebrity Stylist Murder Trial, today, only on Court TV.
Now for what's trending in true crime, our coverage continues of the spring break disappearance of Sudiksha Konanki in the Dominican Republic. And it's hard not to compare the situation to the case of Natalee Holloway. You'll recall she vanished on her high school senior trip in Aruba 20 years ago. Crime scene investigator Cheryl McCollum talked with us about the similarities in the two cases on Wednesday's show.
This sounds so much like Natalee Holloway. You've got a young girl on spring break surrounded by friends. She gets separated from the group with somebody that she met at a hotel in that country. And then she disappears. And then that person starts making statements that cannot be true.
So let's take a look at the striking similarities. Sudiksha is 20. Natalee was 18. Sudiksha was last seen March 6th in Punta Cana. Natalee was reported missing May 30th, 2005 in Aruba. Sudiksha is still considered missing this morning. Sadly, Natalee was murdered by Jeroen Vandersloot, a resident of Aruba. I'm so happy to have our next guest here in the studio with me. He's a private investigator, best known for his work on Natalee Holloway's case. TJ Ward, back on the show with us. TJ, great to see you.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry it's under these circumstances. A missing young lady from Pitt. When you heard about Sudiksha's case, did you think what so many of us in the true crime community thought, that, oh my gosh, this gives us flashbacks to Natalee's disappearance?
Absolutely. And I went a step further. I called the mother 6 days ago. She was with the sheriff in Virginia. I gave her all my information. Matter of fact, I texted her all my information. I said, please call me. I'll help you set up a GoFundMe. Get me there to help you. I said, I'm very familiar with these type cases and with doing the disappearance of Natalee Holloway. Get me there and to help you.
Yes. What did she say, TJ? Did she respond? She
didn't. I think she's so overwhelmed and taken about her daughter missing. Sure. Maybe she didn't. But, I mean, it's out there. I still want to continue to help her. I want to be there for her. There are things that have to be done. I'm receiving calls from people in the Dominican Republic telling me what's going on.
Wow. What are they saying, TJ?
Well, I've got 2 to call back that send me emails last night that want to talk to me and tell me what they think, what transpired there. We know that this country has been put on notice by the United States as a travel advisory with this. There's problems. There's problems in this country with rape, robberies, people being taken, kidnappings. So we have to take all that in consideration. And the goodness is that we got on this case very quickly, and we need to get there soon. I mean, I spent 18 years trying to get Jeroen Vandersloot and Deepak and Satish and following up with them, using the voice analysis on them. I know they weren't telling the truth. So finally, the end result, 18 years later, we get a little bit of the truth that came out of Jeroen Vandersloot's mouth for a deal to get his time here in the U.S. And Beth Holloway was very good about getting that done, along with Greta, and that they went and convinced for them to bring him here to the U.S. and face charges for the extortion, which should have happened in 2010 when he was given $25,000 with the FBI on film with Natalee's attorney, and it didn't happen. And then, of course, he went to Peru with Stephanie Flores, and she found out about this, and he killed her.
Right.
So he's got his 28 years he spent in a Peruvian prison, and then he's going to have to spend his 20 years here in Alabama in a federal system.
Horrific crimes Ron Vandersloot committed.
Yes.
Tell me, in the investigation of Natalee Holloway's case, and I actually went back and pulled up some videos of you being interviewed. You were all over the media, you know, really became very well known, you know, back then for this case, TJ. And there was always speculation that, oh, could she have drowned? And it seems that here in Sudiksha's case, that was the initial thought of all those investigators in the Dominican Republic. Oh, this is a drowning. This is a drowning. What do you think happened to Sudiksha?
I don't think it was a drowning. I don't, and I know that the sheriff in Virginia agrees with that also. This was not a drowning. Something transpired. She may be in the water, but she didn't do it on her own and drowned. What bothers me, this individual that was with her and last seen, who's now a person of interest, according to the federal government and also the sheriff in Virginia, I don't believe that the local law enforcement in the Dominican Republic want to believe that, and I know that because of tourism. They have the same thing that happened in Aruba. They had to hire somebody because of the tourism, and we don't want countries to have people being robbed, murdered, kidnapped, and all in countries when they go to visit. But the problem is with younger people. They think they got this satisfaction, they're going to be able to go party and drink and be on their own and so on. They're not thinking about the safety of what could transpire while they're there.
Right.
So that's the case right here and what's happened. That happened with Natalee Holloway. She didn't know who she was with or what she was with. And look what the end result is. So we're back to square one. And this reminded me so much when I saw the beach and the water and person of interest and somebody missing. It's the same scenario 18 years.
It really is,
that
TJ.
I spent.
It's eerie, eerily similar. These beautiful young ladies with their whole lives ahead of them. In Sudiksha's case, regarding that person of interest, Joshua Ribe, do you think he is where investigators should place their primary focus?
The last person that was with her was him. So they have to target on him and interview him, and the story's changed already 3 or 4 times, and that's not good for him. And so if he is so-called the person of interest right now, a goodness is that the FBI's there now to help and assist the Dominican Republic law enforcement.
Right.
They have the experience, and they've got people there looking and trying to help them and get them where they need to be with this investigation.
Right.
I'm gracious that they're there. They did the same thing in Aruba. I met with them. I met with the Aruban authorities, with the FBI, and the goodness of them being there, it's going to be helpful maybe now and later down the road if this guy is implicated or what they need to get new information out of him. If he knows something, he needs to talk. It bothers me that he was on the beach with her that early in the morning, and before she was reported missing was hours later. And that just doesn't, that's not a good part of the investigation. Now, I've been in law enforcement for 47 years, and I know that that's a key right there.
Yes. Yes, TJ. Tell me, do you still stay in touch with Natalee Holloway's family? And I'm just wondering if you may be connecting with them over this, because certainly they watch the news, and I'm sure something like this could be very triggering.
I speak to Dave Holloway every week.
You do?
Every week. Dave and I are very good friends now. You know, we did a TV show in 2017, The Disappearance of Natalee Holloway. Dave and I spent lots of time together, and we've become very good friends. So we have.
You'll be talking about Sudiksha's case.
I talked to him 2 days ago. Yes, and about this.
I'm sure his heart is breaking. Well, please tell Dave Holloway and tell him to pass it along to the whole family that we still think of his beautiful daughter, and she's still remembered, and someone we're always going to remember here at Court TV.
There are still things coming up about the Aruba case, and that's being looked at. that we know about. Yes.
Oh, we're going to have you back, TJ, to talk about that another day. We're out of time for today, but let's get a date on the calendar and you can update us. I know our viewers would love to hear it. TJ Ward, you can follow him on social media. I hope you get a call back, and I hope they bring you in to get on the ground there.
I hope the family calls me. I insist I will help them raise the money they need for us to go there. And but I may reach back out to the mother again and tell her. I'm sure she knows now by now that that I'm interested. Right. I'm getting calls. Right. I'm getting information
Keep us
about.
Posted.
Yes.
Yeah, TJ Ward, you're awesome. Thank you so much for this. We're going to hit a break. Still to come here on Opening Statements.
That's the ultimate question that will be before a jury. What does that mean, right? What does a knife sheath at a scene mean? That's going to be the ultimate question. You're
killed by a knife, it probably means a lot.
Got Bryan Kohberger's defense team now possibly planning to argue that the real killer planted that knife sheath with his DNA. And the wife of a Ghost Adventure star arrested for a murder for hire plot involving killing her husband and having this guy help. Remember this guy, Grant Amato? Yeah, he's doing life in Florida. We'll explain how police say it all went down.
It was made from the roommate's phone, excuse me, and we're not going to divulge who made that call.
So they came here together. They eventually get into the same apartment together.
Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
And I assume noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I know I talk about myself a lot, but like, what would you guys do in my situation?
And in the end, they died together.
The knife sheath could have been planted by the real killer. Sound familiar? No, this isn't a theory from the O.J. Simpson case. This is the latest defense strategy for Bryan Kohberger. Prosecutors revealed this information in a new court filing. The original filing from the defense team appears to still be sealed on it. So here's what we know. Kohberger's defense team plans to argue that the knife sheath found at the scene of the crime could have been planted by the real killer. DNA on the knife sheath is central to the case.
He's been a little bit wishy-washy on the DNA on the knife sheath itself. You don't get to claim Fourth Amendment standing and then just say, well, that may be my DNA, but I have no idea how it got there. We have a defendant who is trying to get the best of both worlds. He's trying to say, well, it's not my DNA and the state can't prove that, but he's also trying to say that he has Fourth Amendment standing. And that is not how the Fourth Amendment works.
Now remember, the DNA recovered from that knife sheath led investigators to Bryan Kohberger. So what's the play here? From the defense team, let's bring in our legal eagles. Still with me, John Phillips. I want to welcome in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Michael J. Brown. All right, Michael, your thoughts here. Is this theory going to work?
Good morning, everybody. Julie, it's not a bad one. The DNA being on the sheath in and of itself doesn't mean that Kohberger is the killer. I mean, it simply means that his DNA is on the sheath. As we all know, touch DNA is very easy to transmit. I can touch an object right here in my office. Somebody takes it away. It goes to another state tomorrow, and Mike Brown's DNA is now at a crime scene. Doesn't mean I'm the killer. So the planting aspect is a little suspect. I don't know if that word is being manipulated or not. I think, and I don't want to speak for them, it may be more that his DNA is on the sheath as opposed to it's intentionally placed there by the real killer. But it's definitely an issue. And keep in mind, there's DNA, unidentified, male-identified DNA on the glove outside as well as on the railing. So that's interesting, and it's definitely going to be an issue at trial.
Michael, great points. You hit on something that I think is so key for us to explore here. Big difference between a plant or just happen to take an object that somebody else once touched and leave it behind. So let's explore this. So John Phillips, which do you think would be the better route to go? That somebody intentionally wanted to frame Kohberger for doing these murders, or that somebody may have gotten a hold of that K-bar knife that maybe was Kohberger's at some point in time. He had touched the snap on it because it belonged to him, and then that gets left behind, and suddenly everybody thinks Kohberger must have done it.
I think the issue here is just trying to find a means to the end. Look, Johnny Cochran and Mark Furman are not coming in to save the day like they did with the bloody sock and trying to find somebody to frame for being the one who planted it. But like the judge said, I think it was the judge, if you were killing somebody with a knife, that sheath's probably pretty important. And the fact that his DNA is on the button of that sheath is such a huge piece of evidence, along with, as Michael said, the other DNA, along the chain. But I think that's one of their worst, if not their worst piece of evidence. And they've got to find another way to get it there.
Yeah, I love the point you made about this isn't the O.J. Simpson case, where Mark Furman was a perfect person for the defense team to blame, because all of the stuff that came out about him being racist was horrible. And it was like they made him the bad guy, and because he worked the scene, he was an easy target. You're right, they don't have that here. Michael J. Brown, so let's go down the road of the defense team is going to say this was planted. Somebody wanted to frame Kohberger for this. If they don't have somebody with that animosity, an axe to grind, whatever, is it just going to fall flat?
Yeah, Julie, it's going to be a tough sell, the plant part of it. Again, I want to stress, and I'm not the attorney on this, and they know the best, but I think the better approach is probably, hey, this guy could have touched it. It could have been transmitted 3 times over to get onto the sheath. Whose DNA is on that glove? That's a bloody glove. Whose DNA is on that railing? That's a bloody handprint. And it is not Kohberger. It is not the defendant. So, yeah, his DNA could be everywhere and anywhere, but it's really going to be about the corroborative evidence. Is there other evidence that's going to establish his presence in the home? And I know there is some, because that's what's going to really nail that DNA home, as opposed to give the defense an out here.
I like what you're saying there, Michael. The other DNA, who else was in that house? Big party house, doors unlocked. There are no signs of forced entry, remember, so whoever did this crime went on right in without any problems. John Phillips, do you think we're going to see perhaps a combination of these theories where they may say that, okay, somebody could have planted it, or maybe he just touched it, and then, but wait, what about the DNA in the glove found outside of the house, and what about the DNA found on the railing inside? Are they going to point to those other specific people, you think?
Exactly. A fact alone, I don't remember who said this, but somewhere I think I stole it from somebody else's closing argument, but a fact alone is like a one-legged chair. It's not going to stand up on its own. You need other supporting facts to be able to make the chair stand up. And so they've got to figure out, as a defense, certainly we can just talk in black letter law and reasonable doubt, but that chair's got to stand up. You've got to have other pieces of evidence to show how or why Kohberger was the one who happened to have this planted sheath laying next to a victim.
Exactly. Well said, John. I've got a clip of that traffic stop where Kohberger and his dad are driving on home back to PA. Let's take a look.
He's been a little bit wishy-washy on the DNA on the knife sheath itself. You don't get to claim Fourth Amendment standing and then just say, well, that may be my DNA, but I have no idea how it got there. We have a defendant who is trying to get the best of both worlds. He's trying to say, well, it's not my DNA and the state can't prove that, but he's also trying to say that he has Fourth Amendment standing. And that is not how the Fourth Amendment works.
He was right up on the back end of that van, pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU.
Okay, so I'm wondering if Kohberger's dad could come into play here at all. with this defense theory. So Michael J. Brown, hear me out. So we remember the DNA, touch DNA on that snap showed that it was the spawn of Papa Kohberger who touched it. Do you think there's any way the father could be helpful to the defense if it was his K-bar knife, or if it went missing from his house? I don't know. Anything you can think of that Dad could do as a witness? And I'm kind of just, you know, I don't have a set plan in mind. I'm just wondering, as I look at him and I think, might they use him as a witness some way, somehow? What do you think, Michael?
Julie, I don't know the likelihood ratio that was determined, or at least suggested by the prosecution on this actual sheath. I don't know the ratio. Obviously, if it's not a great ratio, then clearly, as the father, he could be the donor. And I don't know if it was mitochondrial or nuclear. I'm not sure, so I don't want to speak out of school. But listen, if they have an opportunity to present some explanation for that DNA, and it's not Kohberger's, certainly I think the defense would go forward. This Ann Taylor, who's the lead defense attorney, she's been very zealous. She's done a great job to this point representing her client. So I'm sure they'll explore any opportunity they have at trial.
Yeah, great points. And boy, do you know your stuff, Michael J. Brown? You've tried so many homicide cases while you're firing off these terms. You know what you're looking at. We're going to leave it here for now and see what the next filings reveal as this case gets closer to trial in August. Michael J. Brown, John Phillips, stand by, please. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's next.
Grant fell in love. Not only did he fall in love with her, he became obsessed with her. To the point where that was all that mattered to him.
Oh, yeah. Remember Grant Amato, convicted of murdering his whole family because of his porn obsession? Well, he's back in the headlines. He's become good friends with the wife of a Ghost Adventure star, and she's accused of plotting a murder-for-hire plot to have him killed. And in our next hour, we're going to Kentucky together as we're getting ready for the military wife murder trial to resume.
(10:15), a dog is heard barking.
This is the first case you'll ever hear that you've got to determine the time of death by a dog's wail.
There were no ring cameras. There were no cell phones to ping off locations. Was that white Bronco there at the time you drove by it?
I didn't see it. There was one critical witness that was never called.
She saw O.J.'s white Bronco.
Trial and Error. Why did O.J. win? A Court TV original series. New episode Sunday night, 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Now let's talk about what may tip the scales of justice. We're heading to a Hollywood marriage that seems irrevocably dead in the water. Ghost Adventure star Aaron Goodwin is lucky to be alive after police say his wife tried to have him killed in a murder-for-hire plot. That's right. Take a quick look at what this paranormal reality TV show is all about.
Whoa! Stop! I just heard a girl giggle, bro. Did you hear that? I swear to God. Tell me again. Hang on, let me see if there's any steps. That's all seen that. Dude, I heard a kid.
All right, so Aaron Goodwin is a big star of this show. It's been on for many, many seasons. His wife, not a star, but oh, she's in the spotlight now. Victoria Goodwin, his wife of barely 3 years, was arrested last week on charges of solicitation to commit murder and conspiracy to commit murder. And get this, according to the arrest warrant, she was messaging an inmate in Florida, who's in a Florida prison right now, to get her star husband killed. But this wasn't any old inmate. Oh, no. She supposedly recruited convicted killer Grant Amato. Amato serving life sentences for the murders of his parents and his brother. If you'll recall, it was all over his sick obsession with a webcam model named Sylvie. He sent her lots and lots of money. Now, for her part in this, allegedly, Mrs. Goodwin has denied trying to have her husband killed and says that she and her husband, Aaron, had just been going through some marital problems. But take a look at her text messages to her prison pen pal, Grant. She says, quote, "Am I a bad person because I chose to end his existence, not divorce? And apparently, investigators uncovered a text message from him when the homicide was supposed to happen, essentially asking the hitman on the outside if it was done, letting him know the location where Aaron Goodwin was. It was at a time when he was filming in California. So we're wondering, are these damning texts going to tip the scales? Let's bring back in Michael J. Brown and John Phillips. Oh, boy. Oh, John Phillips, you see a lot of cases with marital problems. My goodness. What did you think when you heard about this one?
Okay, so here we go. I heard about this one from Joe Exotic. So they covered...
Your client, for anybody who doesn't know, you represent him.
Right. So they covered Joe Exotic's zoo, and Jeff Lowe filled Aaron with a bunch of lies and like took him across the park, and like they had Joe committing murders that that never existed. And so, you know, at a point, Ghost Adventures was on our hit list of possible people to sue for defamation. And so when all of this kind of as the world is going crazy, came full circle, and now Aaron's a part of a murder for hire himself, you know, Joe was like, ha, 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 that's what you get. I always, you know, take the approach from the victims, like, wow, you know, and to you know, then you loop in the prison phone and texting a prison inmate about, you know, his connections to murder for hire. This one is pure sensationalism and fascinating.
Wow. So we didn't know that. We learned something else new. Joe Exotic and Aaron Goodwin have beef, is what you're telling us.
They do.
Two.
They certainly do.
All right. Well, that's interesting. Joe Exotic breaking the news to you, John. How about it? Michael J. Brown, how much trouble is Victoria Goodwin in that they've got these messages going both ways? Like, why you should write to Grant Amato? I have no idea. She's looking to leave her marriage. Why she finds that guy, but she did. What do you think is going to sink her in all this?
Yeah, John hit it on the head. I mean, the text messages are so damning. The lesson to be learned for these folks is you don't communicate with people in jail. Everything is monitored, the phone calls, the messagings, the letters. So they are extremely damning. The only defense attorney hat, the only thing I did think of is renunciation. I only say that because that's buyer's remorse, right? That's the late term for buyer's remorse, because although all of this was done, I think, in October and the end of last year, apparently there's postings of them happy couple, everything's great. So renunciation is if you back off that crime and take all steps to try to prevent it from happening, that's a defense. So I don't know if that's something out there, but that just came to my mind because things may have turned, or it simply could have been a facade and she still was looking to go forward. But yes, she's in a lot of trouble, yes.
Yes, Michael J. Brown, this is why you're a high-profile criminal defense attorney. What you just said, I have to tell you, I was up late last night trying to figure out how this plot was foiled, and I couldn't find anything to show me that it was. In terms of reporting out there, so we don't know. Like you said, they may have decided buyer's remorse, not going to go through with it. Well, all we know is that there was a certain day where Grant, you know, creepy Grant in his prison cell is texting whoever the hitman is, telling him where Aaron Goodwin was and his hotel in California and asking whether it's done. So renunciation might be what Victoria goes with. Thank you both for such great analysis. As always, John Phillips, Michael J. Brown, you guys are the best. We have to let you go, and we got to continue on to Court TV Live. That is it for opening statements. Thank you for watching today's episode, and you can watch it again, share it, go to courttv.com to do that. Just click on the shows tab.